Hey, good morning. This is Jessica Saravia. I am the past chair of BPKC, and I'm back to do another ARE question for our YouTube channel. So let's jump right in. This question says, refer to the exhibit, which is this picture of some water damage, it looks like underneath a windowsill on the inside of a building. And it says, the owner of a new multi-use commercial building with a brick veneer exterior requests a meeting with the architect and contractor to review facility performance issues 360 days after substantial completion. At the meeting, the owner directs their attention to defects observed below all of the windowsills. After review of the contract documents, the architect recommends a forensic investigation and creates a list of items to look for that may not have been installed or installed improperly. Or installed properly. Which items should the architect list? Check the three that apply. So basically what this question is asking us is which of these things relate to managing water around the window openings, right? Like it's clear that there's been some water damage. So what could have led to that? Which of these three things relate to managing water at the window? So let's go through each of them. So weeps. It said in the question that we have a masonry wall. So in a masonry wall these days, we have usually a backup structure, which could be a metal stud, which is what I've drawn here. It could also be another layer of masonry like CMU or something else. But in modern wall construction, typically we have metal studs or CMU and some kind of typically insulation in the cavity and a cavity. And from that cavity, you need to weep the water that gets into that cavity. So your outside layer of masonry is porous, right? Like masonry, you can tell by looking at it that if you've ever seen a wall get wet, that thing will let water in, right? And so if any of that water vapor or moisture gets through, you got to let it out somehow, right? We got to dry that cavity out. So a weep is what we're showing here, that if water gets into this cavity, it can drain out the face of the building. So weeps in masonry walls, manage water. Weeps also occur in your actual window system, depending on what type of window system you're using, like storefront or curtain wall have weeps in the face of their mullions because they also have ways of managing water. You can see here in this YKK mullion detail that there's a little opening here in the bottom of the mullion cap that lets water out. If any water gets in here, it drains it. If you look closely at any more or less aluminum commercial window system, you can usually find the weep holes where they drain water. And this is how they kind of manage water. So you don't ever want to like cover these weeps up. That could be related to their water issues at the windowsill. So either of those things could be the issue. The other weeps that you saw in the section are these little guys. They're kind of a vertical little cellular piece that keeps bugs out but lets water weep out. These are images that I got from Jeff DeQuee at the International Masonry Institute. He is an awesome resource for any masonry detailing that you need. I'll give you his contact information in a minute, but this is the Harley Davidson headquarters in Wisconsin, I believe in Madison, maybe. Might be Milwaukee, but you can see the weeps at the top and bottom of the wall. They actually have air cavity back there that they are drying out with the weeps at the top and bottom. So water, whoop, out. So weeps definitely are on the list. Oh, you know what? Did I miss strikes? So strikes, I don't even know what that is in terms of window. Like a strike, normally I think of on a door, which is like the little plate that the latch hits when you close it. So I guess on a window, maybe it's like something that when you close the window, it the the closing piece that latches the window hits. But I'm just going to skip over that one because I'm not even sure like how that would relate, but it definitely doesn't have to do with managing water. So a sill pan and an end dam. Um, a sill pan and end dam, to be honest, I don't understand how this is not a huge thermal bridge, but we're just going to talk about it anyway and not talk about that. That's a topic for another day. But on storefront especially, you usually have sill flashing that goes from the inside to the outside, and the back leg of this flashing turns up on the inside so that if any water drains through this mullion and gets in here, it doesn't get inside. It kind of sits in this little pan that the flashing makes. So I did kind of a weird three-dimensional sketch here. But that's what this sill pan is referring to. And an end dam is when the flashing turns up at the end. Same purpose. Basically, it's kind of containing any moisture that gets wept or let through the mullion or through the window system somehow, and pushes it to the outside. So that's definitely a contender. It obviously manages water. Shims, let's look at shims. Shims are little pieces of either synthetic material or wood that they help to level the window when somebody's putting the window in place or keep the window level or plumb. Sometimes they're shown with an X, but typically they're shown with a single diagonal line because they're not continuous. You can see them in this diagram here. This is from, if you've never seen Hammer and Hand Construction's Best Practices Guide, you should check it out. Again, I'll give you that link in a second. But they show a lot of awesome details. And because they're contractors, they go through step by step kind of how the install works. And so if you want like just super detailed, hey, this is how high performance exterior walls are built, they have some fantastic diagrams and videos. So that's what they're showing here. These are shims. They put them in the window. You can use as sort of as many or as few as you need to basically get the opening level to set your window inside of it. And that's what this little guy is here. But they don't really have anything to do with managing water. They're really trying to get your window in place and set. So they are not one of our answers. So let's move on to lintels. A lintel is a structural support for the masonry above an opening. So you could have that be steel, like I'm showing here. This is a tube steel beam at the head of the window that then has an angle attached to that tube steel, and it kind of kicks out its leg to support this masonry above the opening, right? Otherwise, this would fall down. But this could also be cast in place concrete. So if this was backup CMU, you could cast a beam in here. It could also be, stone or something like that. But in our case, we're showing steel. So again, this is a structural support. It doesn't really have anything to do with managing water. So head flashing, I hope this is an answer because we're at the last one. Head flashing is a piece of sheet metal or flexible rubbery kind of membrane that helps to guide water out. Remember, we were talking about weeps. It helps to push water out the weeps at the head of the window. So if you don't install this at the bottom of like basically just above your lintel, you could have water kind of weep in your cavity sort of down and into your the sides of your opening, or also just kind of like drain out in funny spots and at joints in your lintel and things like that that are very undesirable. You could also like rust your lintel or damage your lintel if it's concrete or masonry. So this is pretty critical. You want to tie this into your water resistant barrier or air barrier or whatever is keeping the wet outside from the dry inside. So that's kind of what we're showing here. It's usually at the bottom of your cavity, attached to the face of your drainage layer, whatever that happens to be. So it obviously manages water. So that gives us our last answer. Oh, let me move this window back over. International Masonry Institute